Well, the unredacted Epstein files have made their way to Capitol Hill today. Congressman Ro Khanna, Congressman Thomas Massie got a chance a few minutes ago to start viewing the unredacted Epstein files. You know, the ones where someone says they love the torture video or they love that 11-year-old girl. Let's do it all again. Yeah, all of that really disgusting stuff that has been redacted by the DOJ. It wasn't supposed to be. Why was it? Huge portions of the files they did, and Pam Bondi didn't comply with the Epstein Transparency Act, which may be why they've been shoving Todd Blanche out there in front of the cameras. I don't know. You might have also noticed this ad last night during the Super Bowl. Watch.
After years of being kept apart, we're standing together.
Standing together.
Because this girl deserves the truth.
Because she deserves the truth.
Because we all deserve the truth.
Ouch. Absolutely. Also early this morning, Epstein's child sex trafficking girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, was on Capitol Hill to appear before Congress. When asked direct questions, she pled the fifth, of course. Ro Khanna's response to this was, here was my conclusion. After sitting through Maxwell's deposition with her refusing to answer a single question about the men who raped underage girls, saying she would do so only for clemency. She wants to be let out, of course. She must immediately be sent back to the maximum security prison where she belongs, of course, not in that cushy little country club that she's currently hanging out in. So what questions? Why did the DOJ fail to comply with the Epstein Transparency Act? Of course, Congressman Massie on our show last week spilled the beans about it. He was asked about this yesterday. What answers does he want? Listen.
But the one thing I want is the one thing the DOJ is not releasing, which is the names of the clients and co-conspirators in this sex trafficking ring. So they've either over-redacted the files in some cases or just completely omitted files in other cases. The unfortunate thing that they've also failed at is they have released victims' names.
Yeah. Someone who knows just how dark and deceitful and satanic these Washington pedophiles can be is former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who thankfully got out of that disgusting swamp, but she is a truth teller, and she has been all along. Congresswoman, great to see you. Thank you for joining us here on Redacted for the first time.
Thank you so much for having me today.
It's our pleasure. So just at a high level, I want to get your response to this. First of all, the Super Bowl ad calling on the Department of Justice to actually release what they said what they are compelled to release under the law that the president signed into law, and they still have failed to do this. And your former colleagues are still begging for them to provide these files.
Yeah. You know, when I watch a video like that, it hits home in a very different way because I met most of those women and spent time with them, heard their stories, watched them tremble and cry as they told their stories in front of the world at several press conferences in Washington, D.C. last year. And my heart goes out to them. They have been fighting for so long, and they've worked very hard to join together, finding each other over all these years. And all they want is transparency. They want our government to do the job that it's supposed to do, that the American people want it to do, and our taxpayer dollars pay for it to do. They want the truth to come out. And it's just shocking that even after the big fight we had in late 2025, after passing a law, the Epstein Transparency Act, is still shocking that this is still such a battle.
You have a lot of knives in your back from people you thought were your colleagues for continuing to push for disclosure. Now, originally, when we saw ads like this, I thought that this was a matter of sexual abuse and sexual assault. After reading the files for over a week now, it appears that it's violence, possibly murder. So a survivor is not just someone who got away having been abused, but got away with their lives when it seems like there were many who did not. So I want to offer you an opportunity to take a victory lap, because you were right that the American people need to see this, and also let you sort of, maybe I want to ask you, did you know that it was this violent? Did you know that it was this far?
I didn't know it was that. First of all, thank you for that. I very much appreciate it. Yes, I do have many knives in my back. I've also got them in the front as well.
Yeah.
I went through quite a battle there. And what people need to understand is nothing changed about me. I didn't change any of my views, my policy views. I very much still firmly believe in the things that I always said and the things I campaigned on in 2024. The problem is that in 2025, the president and many Republicans that I served with in Congress, they're the ones that changed their views. And that's unfortunate. But the release of the files has proved, to me, it's proved more to the American people than I think they can almost handle. I think people are on overload right now because it's so shocking, the things that we're reading in these files. And remember, there are millions more files to go. This is not all of them. And they're being held back. But when you see the DOJ breaking the law, they're breaking the law because they're redacting the name of former president, secretary of state, members of the government. They're redacting those names. That's breaking the law. Every name has to be revealed. They're also deleting files that they release. That files should not be deleted once they're released to the public. They're redacting names that should not be redacted, while they're letting out information on the victims, which they're supposed to redact personal information about the victims. And they're not covering that up. They're releasing that. And I think what this shows to America is that our government has betrayed victims, innocent victims, in ways that we can't even comprehend, to the point of child sex trafficking, satanic rituals, maybe cannibalism, and rape and trafficking of women. And that fell almost inferior to some of these other things. But it's the vast cover-up for the rich, powerful elites. It's really the international deep state. And it's the people that live in some sort of sphere that the common man can't even comprehend and doesn't walk in. And it's also pulling back the veil, which sadly wasn't surprising to me, that many of the things that the people have had to endure, such as COVID, such as things that happen in our economy, businesses that get supported, industries that get supported, others that get torn down, seems to be planned years in advance by this gigantic network of the international deep state, the international elites. And it's the stuff that they called people like me and probably you and many others conspiracy theorists, and made us said that we were all crazy. But yet here it is, it's coming out. It's not a random person saying that they were saying things like they're eating babies or they're eating human flesh. It's not a random person saying that. There's a lot of people saying it. And then there's not a random person accusing some of our top government leaders of being associated with one of the most disgusting people, Jeffrey Epstein, who is a convicted pedophile, but also fully intertwined in foreign governments, specifically Israel. And these aren't one-offs. Right. These are all throughout the files, and this can't be ignored. People are not going to let this go. As much as the president wants and the Speaker of the House want, people are not letting it go. They're absolutely outraged.
If I may respond to that little bit, because you're right, there's so many people who are implicated, and they're giving us these little breadcrumb excuses, and I'm like, no, I'm not done with you, but I got to get over here because this, and so how can we act on any of it when we're all so crazed and it's so vast? I just wanted to validate that. Please go ahead.
Well, I wanted to ask you, because behind the scenes right now, Congresswoman, I mean, what is happening? You know, you've got Massey, you've got Ro Khanna, Congressman Massey on the show last week. He was furious. I mean, sorry, he wasn't on the show. I spoke to him on the phone, and he said, Clayton, these co-conspirators, why are their names redacted? These people who were saying the torture video, this and that, like these names were not under the Transparency Act supposed to be redacted. It seems like Pam Bondi, all of these people are actively covering up. Is there any other way to read it? Like, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, but it seems like they're actively covering up for these people, these pedophiles.
Well, okay, I'm going to say it like this, and a lot of people have a hard time with me telling the absolute truth, and it's hard for people to understand. Look, I fought for President Trump more than most any elected Republican in Washington, D.C. January 6th, after that, they all turned their back on him, and I was one of the few, me and Matt Gaetz and a few others, that were out there on the front lines for him, and we stayed out there by ourselves for a very long time until he won the primary. And that's when everybody else came on board and said, okay, we'll put on the MAGA hat and we'll play the game. Well, here's the reality. These things that are coming out in the files, these are actual FBI forms. When it says that an FBI agent took out the DVR in the prison where Jeffrey Epstein was supposedly killed, that's on an FBI form. That's not somebody calling in an anonymous tip or writing it on some deep, dark place in the internet. That's an actual FBI file stating what happened. And people are going to have to completely take in what they are seeing with their own eyes, what they're reading, and what they're being told. The reality is the Trump administration is not releasing the information. And I got yelled at by the president over this. This is why he called me a traitor. He called me a traitor because I would not take my name off the discharge petition, because I stood firmly and said, no, we're going to release the Epstein files. I'm standing with women who were raped as teenagers. I'm not standing with the government. I don't support the cover up of all of this stuff, whatever it may be. And the president got mad at me, and he told me, and I've said this multiple times, he told me his friends would get hurt. And that's what he told me. And then we're seeing a continued slow walk and cover up of a lot of this information. And I know that is why. I firmly believe that that's why it is being covered up. Look, Pam Bondi works directly for Donald Trump. She is not out there an independent attorney general. She can't just run out and do whatever she wants. She works at the pleasure and approval of the President of the United States. Everybody in the administration does. So does the FBI. They're under the very same pleasure and approval of the President of the United States. So when everyone's getting mad at Pam Bondi, or you can name anybody you want. The man at the top is Donald Trump. He's the president. And he's the one that was completely against releasing the files when we started fighting to get them released. He's the one that called it a Democrat hoax. He's the one that, he invites everybody to the White House, but he will not invite these women that have defended him, by the way. They have defended him and said Donald Trump did nothing wrong. They have defended him, yet he doesn't bring them in the White House and support them. But what you're seeing is if it looks like a duck, and if it quacks like a duck and it walks like a duck, it's a duck.
Or it might be a Lutnick.
Right.
Or it might be a Lutnick duck.
Early onset dementia and Alzheimer's are on the rise. Reports show that a 373% increase in diagnosis among young people under the age of 44. So when doctors treat brain disease, they often focus on the brain itself, addressing the symptoms, but not the root cause, which of course is chronic inflammation and oxidative stress. These factors damage brain cells and lead to the buildup of these toxic proteins, amyloid proteins, which are an indicator of oncoming Alzheimer's. But like much of the body, many brain tissues track back to the gut microbiome. There is a direct communication line between your gut and your brain, where gut bacteria influence inflammation, mood, memory, and cognitive function. That's why what you eat matters. Now, you might know the health benefits of kimchi, but you're not used to eating it because it's not really a part of the American diet. Kimchi contains 900 probiotic strains and includes bioactive compounds that help reduce inflammation, protect your brain cells, and even improve memory and cognitive function by preventing amyloid beta plaque buildup. That's why Brightcore created kimchi kimchi once. So you don't have to eat it every day if you're not quite used to it or you don't like it. You can take a supplement and get all of these benefits. There's no taste, no smell. It's just swallow a pill. It's no GMOs, made in the USA. So check out the benefits of adding kimchi to your daily supplement routine. Go to mybrightcore.com/redacted or call 888-404-6312 for 50% off plus free shipping. Once again, that's mybrightcore.com/redacted. Use the code redacted at checkout and get 25% off. This idea of protecting his friends versus protecting, because I am not at all convinced that this is not still happening as we speak. You're a mother of three. I'm a mother of three. We serve at the pleasure of this role we've been given as protectors of our children and their generation and their peers. And I don't think that there's anyone else to protect. So I don't care about Howard Lutnick. I don't care about protecting anyone else who might be associated with something that I once validated. I really don't. And so Massey just called for the resignation of Howard Lutnick, who clearly told us lies about his association with Epstein. And so I want to ask you about, the domino effect and who's being protected and who's saying children are not important. And again, how do we know that they're not still being hurt? Because in one of the depositions, it seems that at least Lex Wexner did name a predecessor to Jeffrey Epstein. How do we know? Like, aren't we here to protect children? I've asked you 9 questions. I guess you can choose. I'm sorry, I'm upset.
Pick which one you want.
Yeah.
Right. No, I fully. How do we know it hasn't stopped? We only got a glimpse into a moment of time, and that's in the past. So how do we know what has happened since then? I mean, people are even questioning if Jeffrey Epstein is still alive. And that's, I don't think that's a bad question. I think we should ask every question. At this point, in this time, after what we have read in these files, every question is valid. Right. And you know how I really feel about it? Look, my parents are baby boomers. I'm Generation X. I'm 51 years old. And I love my parents and I love many people in their generation. But I am sick and tired of the baby boomers that are in charge of everything right now. That's across both sides of the aisle. They are responsible for so many of the bad things in our lives. They're responsible for the nearly $40 trillion in debt. They're responsible for all the foreign wars that our military has had to fight for decades now. They're responsible for our Social Security is going to be completely broke in just a matter of years. The baby boomers are responsible for this. And then what are we seeing in the Epstein files? A bunch of gross, disgusting, evil, corrupt, lying, piece of crap baby boomers are all in there. So how I feel about it is they all need to resign. They all, and many of them should go to jail, because I'm honestly sick and tired of the whole entire group, both sides of the aisle.
Do you think we're going to get any answers? You know, one of the things that Ro Khanna had talked about, and Massey too, is about having really sort of an extracurricular special counsel. I guess you could call it a master. Forgive my ignorance on the procedural piece of all of this, but
an independent counsel.
Yeah. And so being able to have that outside of this process with the DOJ, and unfortunately, unless they're bringing some sort of a court case, that's not going to happen. The judge in this has said that. So they're really right now at the mercy of Pam Bondi. I mean, they're at the mercy of these people. No,
you, the American people, are the independent counsel. That is you. You're the independent counsel. Do you trust your politicians? Do you trust anybody anymore to appoint an independent counsel to provide justice? I don't. I worked in Washington for 5 years. I'm going to tell you flat out right now, you can't trust hardly anyone up there. They will not do it. They will not do the right thing. The American people are the independent counsel, and you have the 100% sole power to end all of this stuff whenever the American people get finally fed up with it. And you vote, you donate, you support candidates. You can also choose to not vote, support, donate. You can choose to say, we're not having anything to do with any of you. Or you can figure out a way to beat them. But it's pretty hard. Look at what's happening to Thomas Massey right now. And I 100% support Thomas Massey. He's a dear friend of mine. I endorse him, and I really hope that Kentucky 4 re-elects him, because he's one of the few honest, good men in Washington, D.C. And I can say that because I know every single one of them. And Thomas Massie stands above pretty much all of them. And what is happening to him is outrageous. But I can tell you right now, do I believe that this administration is going to provide justice for anything in the Epstein files? No, absolutely not, because the president told me that his friends would get hurt. So I have that to go on, and that was the president's words directly to me. So I don't think anything's going to happen. Are we going to see people resign and step down outside of people over and outside of the royal family? No, I don't think so. Will we see Israel held accountable and questioned for their part, their role, maybe what Jeffrey Epstein was doing with Mossad? No, I highly doubt it, because Netanyahu is coming to the White House tomorrow to make sure that his friend Donald Trump delivers on this war in Iran that Netanyahu wants to happen. So I hate to be the bearer of extremely honest but depressing bad news. No one's going to be held accountable. No one is ever held accountable except the innocent American people. Think about it. The people that were forced to take a COVID vaccine, the parents that couldn't control their school boards, so their kids were taught all kinds of crap. The pro-lifers were sent to prison when they prayed outside of abortion clinics. People that walked in open doors at the Capitol, they went to jail, but no one else goes, no other kind of political protester goes to jail. I mean, no, it's on and on and on. Time and time again, the American people are the ones that pay the price, but never, ever, ever the rich, powerful elites. They never, ever go to jail. Not unless, but not unless they're being taken down for a reason.
I mean, you have like Lindsey Graham, like the president tweeting a picture of him and warmonger Lindsey Graham yesterday during the Super Bowl, as if anyone voted for this at all. And then you've got the demon, I mean, literally a demon, Satan incarnate, Netanyahu, coming to Washington, D.C., as you pointed out, tomorrow to push for us to go to war in Iran. And then we're still sitting on waiting for 3 million documents to be released that were all supposed to be released. Have you had a chance? Have you gone through any of them at all to know that, like, why are we waiting on these 3 million other documents? Do you have any idea from your experience in Congress on why they would be stonewalling that chunk of documents?
It's totally on purpose. They're being directed to be very careful about what they release. So I'm sorry. I'm one of those. I have seen behind the curtain way too many times and for too long. It's all intentional. That's just the fact. I'm sorry. I wish I had a better answer.
I want to ask you maybe a personal question. So I think there probably are adults in the room, in the government, that maybe wanted at some point to do the right thing and show us behind the curtain of this shadow government. And then they get into office and they are unable. So can you tell me, without giving into specifics, are there forces that tried to influence you to stop doing what you're doing now? And what did it take to leave there intact?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah, there's a lot of good people that go to Washington with great intentions, and still they really wish they could do the right thing. But the system is not set up that way. You're watching it. What happened to me? What happened to me, and what is currently happening to Thomas Massie? We are great examples of how you cannot operate independently, just purely working and representing your district. You're not allowed to. Because it's a two-party system in Washington, D.C. I call it the political industrial complex. And you're either on the Democrat team or you're on the Republican team. And if you cause a problem for whichever party is in power, well, they're coming after you. So, no, you cannot go unscathed if you go against the party in power or the administration. Even if you're doing the right thing, such as saying, no, I'm going to stand with women who were raped at 14 years old. That's the right thing to do. I don't care who the president is. I don't care who the Speaker of the House is. It doesn't matter. No, here's what happens is, well, number one, it's hard to get a bill passed. If you are bucking the system, so to speak, even if the system is corrupt, and you're giving them a hard time, and doing things like I wouldn't vote for foreign aid and foreign war funding. So I got on the bad side of a bunch of the neocon Republicans.
Right.
And they got mad at me, so they wouldn't vote for some of my bills or some of my amendments, even though ideologically they agreed with a bill or amendment of mine, say on some other issue, but they were mad at me because I was like, no, I'm not voting to fund the Ukraine war ever. Or no, I think Israel's doing just fine. We don't need to give them a penny, not a single penny. Nor do we need to give it to any other country, but they get mad at me for that. And then there's other ways that they pressure you. They will really it'll go to the extreme. So what did I do? I stood up against the president. I wouldn't take my name off the discharge petition when he was telling me to. And so he put out a post, called me a traitor, and said that he was going to primary me, which is absolutely absurd. I voted with the man 98% of the time. Many of my bills in Congress are literal identical reflections of his executive orders. There is hardly any daylight between my policies and supposedly his policies, except when you come down to the Epstein files, fighting wars on behalf of Israel. I refused to support one of his bills that opened the back door to a central bank digital currency. I said, no, I'm not going to vote for that. That's something I'm afraid of. So there was only a few little things. And then look at what they did to me. And then you look at Thomas Massie. So I can't play for a team that refuses to win. I cannot fight for a team that doesn't do the right thing. And Republicans are pathetic. They promise one thing during campaigns, and then when they finally get power, they turn into the worst weak men you've ever seen in your life. And they're straight up uniparty. I mean, look at Lindsey Graham. He's the ultimate example. Look at Mike Johnson, the ultimate example. All of them are so weak and pathetic. I can't fight for that team. I can't have anything to do with it. Now, Thomas Massie, God bless him. He's a lot more stubborn than I am. And he said, no, I'm going to stay in here. But you know what they're doing to him? They told every political consultant that worked for him that we will make sure you never get hired by any other political campaign in politics. So 3 political consultants of his quit. They quit because they go out of business. Lucky he's got a couple of others that stayed in there with him. So first off, they make it almost impossible for you to hire people to run a campaign. So they basically blacklist you and make it hard for you to do the most important part, which is get your message out to your voters, defend yourself from attacks, and raise money. And so, no, politics is a blood sport. And that's what people need to understand. It is 100% a blood sport. And the rhetoric you hear on the campaign trail, it's mostly bullshit for most Republicans, because as soon as they get your vote and they get back into Washington, it's business as usual. It's back to, they all step in line and make sure they're doing exactly what they get told, because they're terrified of something happening to them like what happened to me, or they're terrified of what's happening to Thomas Massie. Even if they wanted to fight, they won't do it because they're too scared. They're honestly too scared. Many of them walk up to my face, say, hey, Marjorie, how are you doing? They'll text message me, just, being my friend. They'll say hi to Thomas Massie, call him. They'll say, Thomas, you're a good friend of mine. But have you seen any of these people? Not one of them come out and defend us. Not one of them have anything nice to say publicly because they're too scared of the machine. And that's what's absolutely wrong.
Yeah.
Cheese stands alone.
They are weak uniparty. Yeah, that's all they are. We have, 35, 40,000 people watching right now across all the platforms. Are you going to run for president?
Oh, gosh, no. Everybody keeps asking me that. No, I don't have any plans to run for president. I'm not running for governor. I'm not running for Senate. And honestly, after everything I've seen in Washington, especially the past few years, I really don't think it's a system that I want to be a part of. And again, it really boils down to I honestly couldn't go all out and fight like I did for a team that refuses to win, and they refuse to do the right thing. So for me, I feel like I gave it all I had for 5 years. And stood on the issues that really, really mattered. But I don't see, it's not a point in America's history where a normal American like me can actually go to Washington and make the changes that need to be made.
Yeah, I mean, if you go
But
back
I
to
do
like
want to
1830s.
commend you for being somebody who is willing to break down partisan lines, because that's extremely useful right now. If the Epstein documents don't show us that now, that partisan politics is a ruse, and you, as somebody who was a partisan loyalist who is now willing to say, we're going to do better if we break down this binary, I feel like that's extremely useful. So I want to cheer you on for that.
Thank you. Yep. A lot would have to change in the system. I think the American people can fix it, though. I go back to that. And I see that as, it feels like a movement that's happening right now, where many people on the left and the right are just so tired of being divided. It's like, why do we have to hate each other? It's really horrible. It's destroyed families and relationships. I mean, even marriages. People have gotten divorced over this. Parents and adult kids stop talking to each other. Neighbors, coworkers, we're not supposed to hate each other, because I really truly feel like the key issues that affect all of us, like, for example, health insurance is too expensive. We're all worried about the future as far as jobs. I know for my kids' generation, just the cost of living, and are we going to be dragged into some foreign war that pulls us into World War III? Those are pretty common issues across the left and the right. And those should be the issues that our government should be working on. But, unfortunately, that's not the case. It's nonstop. It's an outrage machine, and it's intentionally built that way. They drive votes and donations based on fear and hate. And so they drive the left and the right to be afraid of the other side and to hate the other side, so they can drive donations and votes against the other. And I think a lot of Americans are really fed up with that. And they're fed up. They have outrage overload. It's just like, it's too much. I can't be angry and upset every single 20 minutes over something else. So I feel like there is some sort of movement of change happening, but it just hasn't peaked yet. But I think that it will.
We got a super chat. I don't know if you can answer this. We'll get you out of here on this, Congresswoman. But Angry Hot Dog asks in our chat room, please ask her to tell us some of the names that she saw on the list. Is that even possible? Or is that classified?
Actually, that's misinformation. I don't have the list. I said at a press conference with the women there, I offered to them, they have a list. So just so you know, there's a core group of these women. They have a list of the men that they keep to themselves. And I offered to them when I was in Congress, I said, I would read that list of names on the House floor, because we, as members of Congress, have something called speech and debate. So we have protection over our speech on the House floor. And that's not, they don't have protection over their speech. If they just go out and read that list of names without proof, these are billionaires and powerful people that will probably sue them into basically homelessness. And these women they're not rich women. I mean, they're just average people. They can't afford high-end attorneys to defend themselves like that. So people on the internet said, why didn't she just read the list? She should just read the list. Well, I can't. That list is held by the women and what they want, and it's completely reasonable. This is why they're fighting so hard for the FBI and the DOJ to release, and the CIA, by the way, has files. These files need to be released so these women don't have to go out there and risk extremely expensive lawsuits by naming these names, because they're all in the files. Right. So I think that's been a misunderstanding for many people. Same with Thomas Massey. He doesn't have the list either. Ro Khanna doesn't have the list. It's only the women have the list.
Okay.
Gotcha. Thank you for clearing that up, and thanks to our viewer for asking that. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, great to finally have you here on the show.
Yes.
It's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much for your time, and hopefully you'll come back.
Love to. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Congresswoman. Great to see you. Thank you.